Happy Saturday. My name is Contessa Beth of Floating Root, and we're here on Saturdays to do cleansing movement. So if you don't already, and even if you don't, it's best to have some clothes on that are comfortable, have some water nearby. Bare feet are optimal, but if that's not where you are, shoes are great. This is movement that is meant to do all throughout your day. We're going to take some time, probably maybe 30 to 40 minutes today, to show you a bunch of movements. But my hope is that you can take these movements and do them all throughout the day to keep your body moving, to reset your body, to constantly be cleansing out your tool, your cleansing tool, and be able to help shake and move those lymph nodes, help the adrenals, help the liver, help the gut. So with this movement, we're going to be accessing all those things, and hopefully all throughout your day, when you get up to make a cup of tea, every time you get up out of a chair after being in that chair for 15 minutes or more, every time you walk through your front door, these are movements that you can do to help use your body as the tool for cleansing out the toxins. Movement. So there we go, it's 1. So welcome everybody. Saturday cleansing movement. I've got coconut, grapefruit, and basil going in my diffuser, humidifier over there. I've got grapefruit in my water. Beautiful. If you have peppermint, supermint, past tense, any of the mint family, great ones to use before you're going to do any sort of movement. It's very invigorating, helps you keep focus. I should have put my peppermint closer nearby, but it can be very helpful. And I'll let you know again before we do the fascia shower when you can put on the peppermint during our movement. So first off, less talking this Saturday. The whole time we're here together, my hope for you is that we get to be moving the entire time. So from here on out, I'm going to show you 2 movements that if we are just talking or I'm rapping at you and you don't know what to do, we're not in a sequence of moving our body, you can revert back to these 2 movements to constantly keep your body in motion. And then the more you do that, the more you'll start to do it throughout your day. When you get up or somebody's talking to you and you're like, oh my gosh, I really just need to move, or I want to go be doing this, it's a great time to just start that movement, very simple movements. And we can go from here, we're going to be doing the motions pretty big. But when you're out in your life, waiting for your coffee, they can be much simpler movements of just swinging the hips, swinging the arms, so forth. So the 2 movements are, we learned the arm swing last week, but we're just going to do it. So if we're just standing here on movement Saturdays and we're not in a sequence, we're moving the hip from side to side. Then you notice your arms naturally are swinging, kind of like you're walking down the street. So you're just going to exaggerate that movement with your arms, make it a little bigger, 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 bigger. And let those arms start to move in a free form, almost like a dragonfly. And when the arms land, they're going to land back here with the adrenals and the spleen, and here, liver. And you're just going to be tapping those and letting the arms really kind of dead fall into that space, and then let the momentum of that bounce fling them back up into the air. So you can either move your hips if that feels good to you, a nice swing, and keep those hips loose, or you can keep your torso and your hips straight ahead and twist around your body. This kind of helps access the rib cage and the whole heart chakra, the lungs, moving that up. Since we're in Taurus season, The sun is in Taurus, the moon is in Gemini. So we are officially in Taurus season. Our lungs, our bronchioles, our throat, all of this area is a sensitive part during Taurus season. So I definitely am feeling that today. I'm feeling tightness here. So I'm going to keep my hips and my torso forward, not moving, and just move the upper rib cage and let my arms go. So please just follow along, and then anytime I stop and get distracted and start talking, you can go back to this movement. Or a simple way to shake or bounce without having your feet leave the ground, without making a big scene. I hope you can see my feet here. Maybe back here. All you're gonna do is keep your front feet on the floor, raise up the calves, and put them back down. Now make that a much smaller movement. Just lift the heels ever so slightly and bounce them back down on the floor. It's a very grounding movement. So if I'm here talking, or if you're in a conversation, sometimes I use this movement to help ground me. It's just a simple shake, bounce, but it helps activate all the lymph nodes. Since lymph nodes need movement in order to purge and cleanse, this can be a great one. And instead of shaking out the whole body and bouncing or jumping, this can be a really gentle way to cleanse out. And then you can go faster because it's a little tiny movement. You can start to go faster and faster. And it brings such relief. I mean, you really do feel all the energy draining down into the feet and into the earth. So it's a really great way to shake. If you're not sure about shaking out the whole body and torquing the body like that, this can be a really safe way. You can also do it while you're sitting in a chair. You can also do it laying flat on your back. And your heels are going to be on the floor. So say this is my foot and my toes. Your heel's going to stay on the floor. And what you're going to do is bend the foot forward and back. That's all you're going to do. And then you'll realize no matter like how much pressure you're putting into it, it'll start to shake your whole body just by pointing the toe, flexing, pointing, flexing, pointing, flexing. It'll have that same bouncing effect, but you'll be supported by the floor. You will also feel the energy just drop into the earth, okay? So any times we're just talking about something or going over something, just remember, try to stay in movement here the whole time. I like this one because a lot of times my hips get locked or I start locking my knees, and this is a nice one to have a nice swing and also wake up those organs. So you can either have your hands in a taunt open position, or you can put them in fists and get a little more activation on those organs. Okay, so we're doing that if we're not doing another sequence. Swinging the arms, letting that air underneath your arms, or just a nice bounce. So all throughout our day, there are certain times, well, reminders that I use to keep me in motion. And one of those, keeping in motion, is just like a great nervous system regulator. It helps cleanse the lymph nodes. It activates the digestive system. So I use reminders throughout my day to keep moving. So even if I'm not going out for a full workout, you can still use your day to remind you to move, 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 move. And one of those things that I do is I use the animals in the home. Cats, dogs, They all have an amazing regulation system for movement and cleansing themselves, energetically, physically, mentally. So oftentimes I've trained myself that I pay attention. I obviously pay a lot of attention to my animals, and I use their signals to signal me to move. So when my dog gets up, every time they get up from the couch, off of a cushion, they take one step and they shake, right? So I've tried to make it a new habit that every time I see my animal do that, I do that too. Anytime they get up, cats will do a thing or dogs too, where they do the downward dog or the dolphin stretch every time they get up, and they do a nice big yawn. When I see my animals doing that, I do that too. So it's a great little reminder. If you're trying to incorporate more movement, but you're missing the mark, or you get through a day and you're like, I didn't do anything. As long as you're doing these movements, you have totally moved your body in a way that is so cleansing for it. So let's start with last week. We did the fascia shower before we did any movement. So we're gonna do that again today. And we're just gonna do a sequence of 8. So you can just follow along. These are very easy movements. I don't really even need to explain them. But you're first gonna start with the belly button and the digestive system. You're gonna find your belly button. Take 1 or 2 hands. Don't follow the direction you're seeing on the screen. Follow my voice because it changes. Sorry. Ambulance. I think this might be a mirror image, or I'm not sure. So follow my voice. We're going counterclockwise. And you're gonna take 2 hands and just start swirling around the belly button. Make sure both feet are planted on the ground. And while you're swirling around your belly button, make sure you're taking deep inhales through the nose, big exhales through the mouth. 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breath is very important. Good. So I'm just gonna keep going. Try to find the rhythm of your breath that naturally happens. How many cycles around the belly do you get to in an inhale? I'm feeling about 2. 2 swirls around my stomach for an inhale and 2 for an exhale. But please go at your own pace. Find your own pace. And then repeat that and just notice. This is how my body works. This is the rhythm I'm on. Good. Now we're going to take either hand, start with the opposite side, go to the opposite shoulder. We're going to do 8 rubs outward to the shoulder. You're just hitting the body enough to move the skin. If you want help doing this, you can use a washcloth or a kitchen towel on bare skin, and that'll help you move the skin, which is helping us move the fascia without getting down there and trying to move the muscle, which we're all pretty used to. And if we don't feel our muscle, we kind of feel like, is it working? I don't know. But we're really just trying to move the skin here. So 8 times. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And after that, you're brushing your hand down the arm. You're brushing arm down, flipping the palm over, coming up, moving the skin all the way up, and then cupping that ear at the end. Brushing down, turning the palm, brushing down, turning the palm. Now make sure you're breathing as you do that. big exhale. Shake it out. Notice if the side of your body you just did feels different than the side of the body that hasn't been done yet. Nice big cleansing breath. Let's do the other side. So 8 swirls here, or just keep going. You don't need to count. A lot of times when I'm doing my movement, I just do it as many times as feels good, what feels like a flow. I try to leave out the counting and judging. Just feels really good to massage this part of the shoulder. It doesn't really get that much touch. So just massaging the energy out that way, we're building up heat and friction. And then let's head down toward the arm with a big inhale. Flip. Good to me. Take a moment, take a big inhale. Now feel both sides of the body. Did that unevenness even out? Is there still one side that's tighter than the other? It's a good time after we've moved a little bit to go in and just breathing is movement, right? One of the most amazing ways to move our bodies. Just take a few big breaths and make sure you are in your body, making sure you're here. All of these exercises, all of these movements are also wonderful for just making sure you're in your body. Are you moving? Not just standing? Are your knees loose? If you want to get really advanced about it, you can do these 2 movements together. So hitting the organs on the swing, lifting up the heels, and bouncing. Keeping the toes on the floor. And you'll find a nice rhythm and flow that your body feels good at. So if you want to just take it much slower, you can raise your heels every time you're about to swing the arms and land them. The other thing I want to talk about while we're doing this movement is last week I started to talk about eye movement, breath, and moving, and how important that is for avoiding injury. Injury of all kinds. Mental trauma, physical injury, places in your body you didn't even know you were moving because you're unaware of those. Muscle, joints, fascia. When you're breathing, number one, it is very difficult to injure yourself or your body. When we hold our breath, that's when injury occurs. So the constant reminders for you to breathe while you're moving and finding the natural rhythm for your breath to match that movement. That's why you could just stand for 30 minutes and do this and figure out what's your natural, what feels amazing to inhale and exhale while you're doing this movement. How good it feels to exhale and bounce at the same time. You'll find your lung capacity has so much more room than you thought it did. And that you really have to exhale a lot longer than you might have done before. Or that you have extra room to take in more oxygen than you ever thought. So we're adding in eye movement. Let's go back to that fascia shower that we did, yeah? So in a dance background, this is kind of where this gets incorporated in my knowledge. Making sure you're breathing while you're moving, main way to not get injured. Make sure you're not holding your breath. Other thing is tracking your movement with your eyes. We naturally do this. This is how all animals move. Before we move, our brains are sending a signal to our eyes. Our eyes are tracking the movement we are about to do. So it is very natural for us, just like breathing is natural, but sometimes we hold our breath. Tracking our movement with our eyes is natural, but sometimes we've been trained out of doing that. We're distracted out of doing that. So making sure your eyes track your movement, and by what I mean by that. So take the arm that you're going to rub. I just want you to put it up in front of your body. And as you're bringing it over to your shoulder, I want you to look at any of your fingers and just track the hand moving to the shoulder, and then track the hand back out in front of you. Track it to the shoulder, track it back out in front of you. Now try to go through that whole movement. Keep your eyes on those fingers until you can. And just see how much more energy or effort that takes. And also, if it doesn't take you much energy, try to incorporate it into the flow. It is a natural movement for you. You shouldn't have to learn how to do this. Your body should naturally fall into it, but it might feel a little awkward because you're thinking about it. We're thinking about, oh, I need to breathe. Oh, I need to track my eyes. All these things happen naturally when we relax. Let's take a big breath. And you'll notice your head moves a little bit more when you're tracking your movement or when you're conscious of tracking your movement. But that's really good. It's a really good habit to keep doing. So just do the other side to equalize it out. Already from doing that 2 times, I feel this side is so different from this side. So let's go to this hand. It's also about all this intention we're putting into the body, right? On this side, whichever side we're moving, when we're tracking it with our eyes, we're breathing into it. It's so much intention. So I think that's a lot of like what we end up feeling in our body, either that big release or that big tension. Yeah. Now try doing it as you're swinging your arms. Choose one arm. I'm going to choose my right. And I'm just going to have my eyes follow that one arm. Which really translates into my head moving with my torso. So I'm getting a nice little head release. With my arms. We're all moving together in tandem when I follow that hand. And if you notice, you can start following both hands because they kind of meet here at a certain point, and your focus might shift from arm to arm. So as I spin, if I'm following this hand, when the hands reach about here, my eyes might start following this hand. And it ends up being the same exact movement. It's not like you have to adjust. Your eyes naturally do it. Your eyes naturally want to track your movement as a preventative to keep you safe. So all those things to notice. Shake it out. Another great way, if even shaking is not something you're used to, a really great way, especially I would say for females, since we have so much muscle and strength in our lower half of the body, this is a great way to learn how to shake it out. If it's feeling a little, I'm not sure how to do that, you're going to plant both feet on the floor. You can see my feet. Both feet on the floor. You're going to activate your thighs, your calves, and your butt. And you're just going to start bringing one knee forward, shifting the weight of your legs, but keeping full foot on the floor. Toes arch heel on the floor. Just start moving the knees back and forth. It's going to start moving your hips. And then you're just going to make that movement even tinier, barely moving. And then just try to get faster about it. It's a good thing to practice. It does take practice. It's not something we all do naturally. But it's a great way to release energy when you get up out of a chair, up out of bed. Wonderful thing to do is just allow the body to relax and shake it out. It resets our nervous system. It lets go of any trauma. It lets go of thought loops that are going through our brain. It helps break that neural pathway that's happening. Okay. Okay. The next cleansing movement. This one's really cool. I learned this from the Glucose Goddess on Instagram. And it's a great one, especially with what's happening with doTERRA and the MetaPower movement right now, and glucose levels, and trying to regulate and soften our glucose spikes. The muscle going up your calf on the outside. So, super simple. I'm sure we've all done this, but you can do this while you're sitting in an office chair. I like to do it also when I'm talking to people and my body just needs to move, and maybe shaking isn't appropriate or bouncing isn't appropriate, but a really nice calf raise, which is just going up on the balls of your feet, up on the balls, back down. Make sure the knees are just a little bit soft. It's mimicking the calf movement we're doing when we're walking. So just walking down the street, we are using that muscle a lot. That muscle uses up the most amount of glucose of all the muscles in our body. It's kind of strange, but not so strange when you think about it. We are meant to be walking and moving at all times. We are not meant to be still creatures. So it does make sense that the muscle we use to walk, to get down, to get up, to move forward, to move sideways, any way we want to go forwards or backwards, side to side, we've got to access that muscle in our calf, and that is what is burning up extra glucose. So if you're having a spike, or you ate something, you just had a really high carb meal, one of the best things you can do, number one, is go walking, move your body, do any of these movements after a meal if you can't go walking, and then use that muscle. So just doing calf raises while we're breathing, especially if you've just gone for a run and your calves are already pretty tight. Make sure you're breathing while we're doing calf raises and we're burning glucose. So cool. So you can do it while you're in a chair, office chair too. So the weight is more on a flat foot, and you're just gonna take it and move the knee up and forward. So pretend I'm sitting in a chair. It's this. And you can put resistance on the calf as you're bringing the heel down to the floor. Lifting, resisting down. Lifting, resisting down. I love that little tidbit. If you've ever heard fidgeters use up a lot more calories than people who just don't fidget, this is one of those big ones. Because if you notice a fidgeter, when they're shaking their leg, all they're doing is bringing up that heel off the floor really fast. So all of this too are bouncing. Guess what? Accessing that calf muscle. Burning glucose. Using glucose. Okay. Very simple tricks. Movement doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be inaccessible. You can do all of this stuff while lying on the floor, being very supported physically. You can do it in a chair, on a stool, on a ball, on your feet. All of these things can be done If you're doing the swinging arms one, it's best to have a stool or something where you're not going to whack the arms, but it's completely doable while sitting, even if it's a super smaller movement. Yeah? Okay. Let me check my notes. So I just want to, again, so all that simple movement, look, I feel like I'm a little out of breath. I know talking while doing the movements is a little bit more intense, but just these simple movements, getting up, and the fact that you get out of breath doing such tiny movement is fantastic. It's proof that like you're pumping blood, you're moving oxygen, yeah? We're gonna throw out the trash to finish this up. So last week we learned this movement. You can just follow along, or I'll show it once and we'll do it maybe 10 times. You can do this also while leaning on a stool. I have this. Oh, I can show you, which is a great thing to use. It's just a little platform so I can put myself on. I often work on this. So a great way to be able to sit down and keep moving. Yeah, lifting the calves. We can do it while we're sitting. We can move in all the ways, in all the positions. So don't let maybe lifestyle things prevent you from moving. And these are all things that you can do: shaking, bouncing, arm swings, breathing, getting your movement in sync with your breathing, in sync with your eye movement, are all things that are so accessible to you at all times of the day. So when you're going to make tea or coffee in the morning, that's one of my favorite times to do movement. I'll be in the kitchen and I'll be at the stove, and I use the stove as my little balancer, doing squats, seeing where my body is for the day. Sometimes it'll be really difficult to sync my breathing with my body. And it's like, oh, I need to pay attention to this a little bit more today. So throwing out the trash. This is a great one to get rid of emotional baggage, emotional buildup, as well as physically letting it all go through the body. So what you're gonna do is take a big breath in. I'm not sure how much you can see my feet. If anybody wants to comment, can you see my feet when I'm standing here? Or do I need to move all the way back here? You're gonna take a big breath in. When your arms reach to the top, you're gonna swing forward, bend the knees. I'm doing this in slow motion. Track your movement with your eyes, so your head is going with your hands. Following your hands all the way down, following them, and you might see them behind you. So you're just gonna keep following, let the head follow the hands. You don't wanna like torque your head up as you're going down. Let those eyes follow the hands all the way down. Take away the trash. Sweep the arms back up, bent leg, all the way up to extension. Take a breath here. Stretch. Throw out the trash. Throw out the trash. I'll do it from the side so you can maybe see what's going on. Again, legs are bouncy. Take a big breath in. Exhale on your way down. Make sure to track your hands even as you come up. So you're tracking your hands all the way down, all the way back up. And by tracking, I mean, at first you might want to actually be looking and trying to stare at your hands. But eventually you'll realize you can relax your eyes, and your head is, the point of it is that your head is also moving to where you're going. So the body is moving all together in one language, in one sentence. We're all moving to that location together, and that's helping you prevent the injury. So eventually you won't have to actually watch your hands. It's one of the tips and tricks for dancers in looking graceful, looking elongated, is to accentuate that I'm looking at my hand, I'm looking back at my hand. It's a way that the body naturally moves together. It's almost impossible to not move the body together when the eyes are tracking a part of your own body. So let's do that 8 times. Just a really nice shakeout. Go at your own rhythm. Find your own breath sequence as you're doing this. I find it really helpful to take a deep breath in. Breathe out here, stay. Take a breath in. Throw out the trash. Breathe in on the way up. That's my rhythm. Find your own rhythm. Let's do it at least 8 times. You'll build up some heat. You can do this sitting down as well. Here we go. I finished my sequence. I'm going to go back to swinging arms while you all finish up. Or if you're finished, choose your way of subtle movement. I love twisting. It's one of the things that makes me feel amazing. So I really lean on this twisting a little bit here in the torso. If you want to make it subtler, focus on moving the arms and keeping the chest and hips forward. And you still will feel all that fascia. Still getting that nice gliding motion. Yeah. If you want to know more about fascia, we talked about it in the video last Saturday. Watching last Saturday's, well, if you've already watched to this point, anyway, go back and watch the one from last Saturday. We talk a little bit about why this is getting our fascia ready for movement. Thank you for joining me here. Please try to take these movements and integrate them into your day. A lot of times also, it can be one area of the body that you're shaking, like hands hold a lot of energy. So after a tricky situation, after you hold on to a doorknob or hold on to something that often the subways here, oh my gosh, every time I get off of the subway, I've been holding on to the pole that 10 million people have been holding on to, and I get off that subway and I'm like, and I shake that energy off because it's a lot of energy there, yeah? So just shaking out the hands can release so much toxic buildup in our bodies. Just shaking the head. Shaking out the shoulders. Really try to incorporate shaking, some bouncing, and some of this windmill, accessing the organs, the airflow, the energy flow, waking up the system, activating the lymph nodes, dumping, yeah, bouncing, and then the release of the nervous system, the shake. Watch an animal if you're not sure how to do it. They do it very fast. I have been taught to shake up to 30 seconds if you really want to reset your nervous system and to make it a habit. Just doing it once doesn't have that much help. Creating it into a habit that happens all the time is what resets the nervous system. So I wish you luck in incorporating all of these movements during your week. Remember to breathe. Move your eyes and your head when you go to move, especially when you're doing movement you're not that familiar with. It's a really great time to be like, as I do this movement, I am going to be conscious of where my eyes are and where my head is moving. Am I watching myself? Okay, thank you guys so much. I forgot about the peppermint during the thing, but while we were doing the fascia shower is a great time to put a little oil on your hand, and you can be swiping it up and down those fascia channels. Okay, we'll see you next week, same time, and we'll just keep adding because movement is very simple. It is natural for us. We don't need to be beating ourselves up about it. This type of movement right now, I feel my skin, my fascia, my muscles, everything is like heated and lubricated. And to me, I feel so ready to move on to the next part of my day. So you have all the access to this amazing tool. Use your move. I can hear my little one behind the curtain. She's gonna come in here and she's gonna shake, and I'm gonna shake with her. Happy Saturday, friends.